Over the last few weeks, the readings in morning prayer have been following the story of Moses, how he encounters a bush that's on fire but not burning, and hears God's voice speak to him from the bush. These readings prompted me to re-watch the films Exodus, God and Kings, and The Prince of Egypt. The Prince of Egypt has a very powerful depiction of Moses' encounter with this strange bush, which I find really moving. We read in the book of Exodus of how Moses, having been brought up in Pharaoh's palace, runs away from Egypt after murdering an Egyptian. He settled in the company of some Midianites and married the priest's daughter. When he's out in the desert looking after his father-in-law's sheep, he comes across a strange sight, a flaming bush, on fire but not consumed by the flames. He turns aside from the sheep to investigate and is told to remove his shoes so he can approach the bush and hear what God has to say to him. Do you ever walk around barefoot? Probably not outside the house. Removing our shoes makes our feet vulnerable. Few of us have sturdy enough soles to walk any distance barefoot. So without our shoes, we need to remain where we are. Removing shoes also makes escape difficult. God wants Moses' full attention, and so orders him to remove his shoes. Without his shoes, he can't escape. He has to listen. Right now, even with our shoes on, many of us feel vulnerable. We're having to be reliant on others to help us in our daily living by shopping for us and collecting medication. We may feel isolated and alone and unable to do the things we'd normally do, meeting our friends and family and being sociable. Also, we can't avoid what's happening to us in our country. So we may feel we're at the mercy of a virus which we can't escape from. But in that bush, God tells Moses he's heard the misery of his enslaved people in Egypt, and he's going to rescue them and lead them to a better place. And so the story continues with Moses returning to Egypt and following God's instructions. But what I want to share with you today about Moses' encounter with this bush is God's name. When Moses asks God, what is his name? He says, I am who I am. This is God in the present tense. God has been in our past and will be in our future, but he's also very much in our present. No matter where we are in our life journey, God is in it with us, right here and right now. And this reminded me of a poem by R.S. Thomas called The Bright Field. In the poem, Thomas writes, life is not hurrying onto a receding future, nor hankering after an imagined past. It is the turning aside like Moses to the miracle of the lit bush, to a brightness that seemed as transitory as your youth once, but is the eternity that awaits you. In this strange time when we might be tempted to long for a future when life is normal again, or hanker after what life used to be like, God's words from the bush tell us that God is here now. We can miss his presence by wishing our time away, or by longing for days gone by, when what he wants us to do is respond to him in the present. His presence is a gift to us and an encouragement for our present circumstances. I decided to misquote Elizabeth Barrett Browning for you. Earth's crammed with heaven, and every common bush afire with God. But only those who see, take off their shoes. The rest sit around and pluck blackberries. picked blackberries can be delicious. But the poet is making the point that we need to look into our ordinary everyday life in order to see where God is. Otherwise, we'll miss his presence. So perhaps we need to turn aside from whatever is preventing us from catching a glimpse of God's presence in the world and in our lives. Where is your bush afire with God? It's definitely somewhere. When you find it, metaphorically take off your shoes and approach God, letting him speak to you in the here and now, and hear him say that he hears your cry and will respond. Hear him say, I am. This is the eternity that awaits you.